Thank you for joining us today for Intro to Social Media for Small Businesses, the first in our Crain Social Media webinar training series, presented by Crain's Detroit Business and Crain Social Media Group, and sponsored by the Small Business Association of Michigan. I'm Curette Dagg with Crain's Detroit Business. The webinar will be 60 minutes, including a presentation from our speaker and a question and answer session at the end. You can submit a question at any time throughout the webinar by typing it into the question field to the right of your screen. We'll try to answer as many of these as possible during our Q&A session. Crain Social Media Group is a new division of Crain Communications. The team is led by Tracy Samantha Schmidt, Director of Strategy and Consulting at Crain Communications. Tracy created a nationwide social media education program for Tribune Company, has taught more than 10,000 professionals to use social media effectively in the last 10 years, and is the co-creator of Chicago Now. In addition, Tracy has reported for Time Magazine and has taught graduate courses at DePaul University. I'll now pass things over to Tracy, who's going to get them started.
So again, the definition of social media: individuals or brands using social networks to share content and discuss ideas. This is a definition that we've created here at Crain over the last year, and it's been a very helpful definition to many people, but if you have thoughts on it, certainly let's talk about that later. You can certainly email me at tschmidt@crain.com. Can we go to the next slide, please? Awesome. So these are the reasons why we use social media personally: to stay connected with our friends and family, to celebrate our latest accomplishments, to seek support during hard times, to ask for feedback, to laugh, raise awareness, and promote an upcoming event. But the reason that you're all here for the webinar is that you want to understand how to use social media for your business. So in the next slide, we will see the ROI of social media. So these are the main 10 reasons how your business can use social media to advance your business in overall revenue, as well as employee engagement and public relations. So the 10 points I have here are brand awareness, public relations, new business development, customer service, reputation management, market research, employee engagement, company recruiting, search engine optimization, or what's known as SEO, and direct traffic referral. In the interest of time, I'm going to keep moving forward, but throughout the 7 webinars that we have in that series, we're going to come back to those 10 steps, 10 reasons for ROI over and over. So I'd rather prefer to show it to you rather than tell it to you. So next up, let's look at an overview in the state of social media by the numbers. So in the next screen, what we will see is recent research from ComScore in December 2012 showing the state of social media. So at the top module, we're going to see the largest websites in the United States by traffic. Google, Yahoo, and Microsoft, or Bing, on the left-hand side, are the top 3 largest websites, and this is because they're search engines. Right below that, though, is Facebook, number 4. And on the right-hand column, you'll see that in terms of overall time spent on a website, Facebook is actually the number 1 website, followed by the top 3 search engines. And then in the bottom module, what you'll see is that among the top social networks, most time is actually spent overwhelmingly on Facebook. So 83% of time is spent on Facebook. And then from there, it's divided into the other social networks. Tumblr, which is a very simplified blogging platform, is the top one, 5.7%, and then Pinterest, Twitter, LinkedIn, and other social networks. On the next screen, you are going to see at the top kind of the overall growth of Twitter and LinkedIn in the past year. So both are continuing to grow in overall traffic and unique visitors. And then on the bottom module, what you're going to see is the rise of what we now call a visual social network. So this is, in this case, Tumblr, Pinterest, and Instagram. So by a visual social network, we mean these are social networks that they predominantly share images or links to videos. So we'll take a look closer at Pinterest and Instagram later on today. So the next screen is from the Pew Internet Center, which this report actually came out last week, and it's a free report available online. And what it provides is a demographic breakdown by the top social networks of exactly who's using what social network. Unfortunately, LinkedIn was not included in this report, but you can see on the left-hand side that this report includes a breakdown of Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, and Tumblr. So we're going to see a breakdown of these different reports throughout the presentation today. So we're going to keep moving forward, but I encourage you to go to the Pew Internet's website to read the full report. So next up, what I'd like to do is an overview for business, looking at the top social networks. So we're going to start with Facebook, then Twitter, then LinkedIn, then Pinterest, then Instagram, and finally Google+. So let's take a look at Facebook. So in the next screen, what we will see is on the left-hand side of the screen, a breakdown of Facebook's demographics using the Pew report. And we're going to see that Facebook has a higher range of women, and that for the most part, it's a little younger, but again, the fastest growing user base on Facebook is actually people over 55 years old. So it's a very wide range of people. And remember, this is where the predominant amount of people who are on a social network spend their time on Facebook. For a business, there's 3 words that you need to keep in mind. A Facebook page is free to a business, brand, band, or public figure. This is different than a profile for a human. Individuals like me have a profile, but my company, Crain, has a page. Likes are the people who have opted into hearing from your page. So you'll often hear, well, how many likes do we have? That means how many people do we have who have opted into hearing from our page when they log into Facebook? And then wall, or what's now called a timeline, is the center component of a page or profile where you and other users can post content and talk with each other publicly. So on the next slide, what we're going to see is a screenshot of Crain Detroit's business Facebook page. And we're going to see up at the top is what's called their cover photo. So this is actually an image that you can design, a JPEG, and upload to enhance the branding of your actual page. And right below that, what the C is what's called the avatar or profile photo for that page. Then below that is the about the page information that links you to Crain's actual website. And then to right of that are different apps that Crain's Detroit has actually uploaded onto their page. In order to actually upload an app like that, they've used a third-party application to design and upload those apps. There are many different applications. Many of them are free. Some of them are premium that allow you to design apps for your page. And they can have all kinds of functionality, from being able to run contests, to show videos, to capture information right within your Facebook page. You'll see that Crain's Detroit has just under 9,000 likes, which is a very strong base. And then below that, we're going to see the beginning of the timeline of Crain's Detroit's page, or what used to be called the Facebook wall. So in the next slide, let's take a closer look. I'm sorry?
Are likes the same thing as fans?
They are. So Facebook changed the terminology of fans probably within the last about 2 years. So now we simply say a user likes a page, but many people in the community, in the social media community, still say fans interchangeably. Great question. So let's go to the next slide. And this is a closer look at Crain Detroit's actual Facebook page. So in the middle is what we call the timeline, and on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see the actual years dating all the way back. Your business goes back, hundreds and hundreds of years, or maybe not hundreds and hundreds of years, but at least decades. You can certainly list that there and share content from your business going back many years. So on the left-hand side of the screen, we can see a status update in which Crain Detroit shared a link. And then on the next slide, what we can see is that all of these different times in which they shared content, we can see that people have engaged with that content. They've either shared it on their own Facebook profiles or they've liked it. So it's really important, if you're going to create a Facebook page for your brand, to spend time getting an audience to be engaged. And the reason you need to get an engaged audience is you need that to increase your overall exposure across Facebook. So let me tell you what I'm talking about. On the next slide, we will see that this is an example of my newsfeed. So when a user logs into Facebook on their home page, what they're going to see on their home page is their newsfeed, is an update of all of their friends' updates, as well as the different brands whose pages that they've liked. Now, I happen to have liked probably 300 or 400 pages over the 9 years I've been on Facebook. So I'm not going to see, all 400 pages when I log into Facebook. I'm most likely only going to see the page that I engage with more often. So at the top of my newsfeed is the Chicago Tribune Books Facebook page. This probably appeared here because at one point in the last few weeks I've engaged with a link or the actual page itself. So Facebook is constantly updating users' algorithms so that it's displaying the content that most interests them. The algorithm is called EdgeRank. This is a very important word if you run a Facebook page to understand. It's called EdgeRank, EDGERANK, and it's the algorithm that Facebook uses to determine how a story appears in a newsfeed. Unfortunately for businesses, now that Facebook is a public company, it's on a mission to make as much money as quickly as possible. And one of the easiest ways for Facebook to do that is to limit how easy it is for a business to reach their customer base for free on Facebook. So what I mean by that is when I post an update to Crain Communications Facebook page, if I don't pay anything for that post, it's only going to reach on average 16% of my user base. So this means that if I post something today and I have 300 people who like my page, I'm still only going to reach 16% of my user base. If I want to reach more people, I'm actually going to have to pay for what's called a promoted post to reach more people. Or I'm going to have to create a piece of content that gets so many people interacting with it, they're more likely to reshare that themselves. So we'll take a look at that in a couple of screens. Let's look at the next screen though. This is a screenshot of Facebook Insights. Facebook Insights is a free analytical tool that comes with every Facebook page. So when you create a Facebook page for free, you're going to have access to how your page is performing on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis. And you're going to be able to come in here and specifically track, what days did we have the most engagement? Where did it kind of tip off? What were our posts that had the most reach, the most engagement? In the next slide, we can actually narrow down into the individual posts and see, okay, on December 14th, we had a video that reached 565 people and was pretty viral. What did we do that had such an impact, and how can we create that? At the bottom, we're going to see that we had a post on January 3rd that really wasn't nearly as viral, but still reached a lot of people. So we're able to kind of analyze this data and adjust our strategy accordingly. In an upcoming webinar later this year, we're going to spend an entire webinar on social media metrics, understanding them and adapting your strategy accordingly. And at that point, we're going to come back to hunkering down into Facebook Insights. But for more information on this, go to facebook.com/insights. The next slide. This is what I was talking about earlier with what's called a promoted post. So you'll see up at the top is a post that I shared on Crain Communications Facebook page within the last day. You'll see right below the photo where it says 35 people saw this post. Not a very strong reach. So let's say I had a really great post and I want to reach a lot of people, even more people than like my page. I can promote the post for anywhere from $5 to $20. And what that's going to do, as you see on the screen right there, is that's actually going to start placing this post in the news feed of my Facebook fans as well as their friends. So if I have a big company announcement or a contest or we're hiring and I want to reach lots of people, this is a pretty cheap way to start doing that. Of course, if you have a very large brand or you're trying to reach a very competitive audience, this price is going to increase. So learn more about this and other Facebook advertising opportunities at facebook.com/ads. So next, we're going to talk about Twitter. So next slide. So Twitter. So Twitter is the second largest social network in terms of the overall user base. On the left-hand side of the screen, we are going to see that Twitter is actually very popular with minorities in urban areas. Twitter is also very popular for media companies as well. So what's great about Twitter that's pretty unique to Twitter is that every time you send a tweet, it's being captured by a search engine. So what that means for a business is if you want to increase your overall SEO very quickly, Twitter is a great way to do that. Unfortunately, we don't have time to explain how Twitter works, so I'm going to have to go quickly through it. But the vocabulary of Twitter is that a tweet is a public message sent in 140 characters or less. Tweet can be seen by everyone, including search engines. Followers are the people who have opted into receiving your tweets in their personal feeds, and a direct message is a private tweet sent between two Twitter users. So on the next screen, we're going to see a screenshot of Crain's Detroit business's Twitter profile. So if I went to twitter.com/CrainsDetroit, this is exactly what I would see. I would see in the middle of the page Crain's Detroit Biz, their display name, and then below that with the @ sign, what's called the Twitter handle. Yeah, sure.
Going back to Facebook just for a second, the promoted post or pay-per-click or impression, is there something that's better one way or the other?
A promoted post, a pay-per-click for impression, it depends. A promoted post is really if you have a great piece of content that you want to get out there. So you've got a great photo, a great story, a great link. An advertisement such as pay for impression is really just going to do an overall brand awareness for your brand. So I think if you want to just do an overall brand awareness, do impressions. But if you have a specific piece of content you want to share, do a promoted post. People are more likely, though, to click on a promoted post than they are on an ad on the side of their page. So perhaps do a combination of both.
Perfect.
Awesome. So Twitter. So again, Crain's Detroit Biz is their display name. At Crain's Detroit is their Twitter handle. And then below that, Crain's Detroit Business is the business news and information source for Detroit and Southeast Michigan. This is what's called your bio on Twitter. Make sure in that bio that you really explain what your business does, and if you understand how SEO works, include key phrases within your bio, and then a link to their website. Below that are the most recent tweets that Crain's Detroit had sent at the time I took the screenshot. We'll take a look at those in a second. On the left-hand side of the screen, you're going to see an image of Crain's website, newspaper, and iPhone app. That's actually a customized background that Crain's Detroit designed for Twitter. It's a little tricky to do that, but if you have access to a graphic designer or can use a third-party plugin, highly recommend doing this for increasing your brand exposure. Next screen. These are examples on the left-hand side of the screen of who Crain's Detroit is following and who's following them back. It's always a good idea from a business perspective to never follow more people or brands than are following you back. Next screen. This is an example of a list. A list is a great opportunity to show who perhaps your employees are, who your clients are, who you consider influencers. It's kind of a way to give a thumbs up and also a way to provide a tool to your customers. So perhaps you provide a service and you want to show a roundup of, perhaps all of the bakeries in your area or all of the grocery stores in your area that are on Twitter. You can create a list to do that. Next screen. Let's do a breakdown of how a tweet works. So up at the top, we'll see on the left-hand side, state must relieve debt burden on public ed, outgoing DPS official Doug Ross says, then there's a link. The link actually links to Crain's Detroit website, their article, and then they also included the Twitter handle of the Detroit Public Schools. This does two things. One, it alerts Detroit Public Schools to the fact that they're mentioned in this article, and it also allows the user the chance to click on their profiles to learn more about the Detroit Public Schools. On the bottom part of the screen, we'll see another example of a tweet, Beyond Buzz, companies develop ways to stand out amid social media chatter. Then there's a link to the article, and Crain's Detroit also linked to the organizations or people mentioned in the article. This is a very effective way to increase the reach of your tweet, because what will happen is if it's a positive article or a positive tweet, the people mentioned in it will most likely retweet. And you can see right there that this particular post got 6 retweets. Next page. So Twitter's a little tricky to track the analytics because it doesn't offer too many analytics like Facebook does for free. So in order to understand the effectiveness of your Twitter strategy, it's a good idea to use a third-party platform like a social media dashboard. A social media dashboard is essentially a third-party tool that allows you to manage and analyze multiple social media profiles. There are both free and premium social media dashboards. 2 of the most popular free ones are Hootsuite and TweetDeck. So Hootsuite is HOOTSUITE.com, and TweetDeck is TweetDeck.com. Sprout Social is a premium social media dashboard that starts at about $9 a month, and I actually use Sprout Social to manage our corporate social profiles. And what's great about it is it also generates free Twitter reports as often as you want. Was there a question?
Yeah, I've got a couple. I think since we had a little bit of problem with some technical difficulties, maybe instead of doing a big question and answer session at the end, we'll just go until our time runs out, and I'll interrupt this way when we do have questions.
That's great. Let's do that.
So first of all, I want to let everybody know, because of these technical difficulties, we've had a couple of people ask about they missed part of the webinar because they logged in a little bit late. So all of this is being recorded, and you're going to be able to view the webinar in its entirety, and you'll get a link in your email tomorrow. So I just wanted to address that because we have a lot of people with that concern. The next thing I'd like to ask, I've got 2 here. Is it a good idea to link your Facebook post to automatically post to Twitter or vice versa? And then a few folks here would like a little bit of clarification about what exactly SEO is.
Okay, sure. So the first post was, should you automatically have whenever you post to Facebook, post to Twitter, and vice versa? And the answer I say is no, because two reasons. They're different social networks, and so Twitter is really designed for short updates, 140 characters or less. Facebook, you can share a photo and then have a much larger update. So they don't exactly translate well. Also, people in social media don't like seeing the same content twice. It almost feels like the brand is cheating, seeing this content all over the place. It's not to say you certainly can't use the same photo across your social networks or the same link to a blog post on your website, but really you want to kind of change it for the social network. So Twitter, the most effective tweets are usually pretty funny or they're interesting. They're kind of things that make people stop and think, wait, what? And so they'll be more likely to share that content. Facebook is a very visual social network now. So if your post has a photo or a link to a video, people are more likely to see that and engage with that content. Hope that answers the question. It's one more step, but it's going to create much more effectiveness by molding your updates to each platform. And then the other question was SEO. So SEO is what stands for search engine optimization. So I like to call it the art of being found by Google. So what this means is when somebody types what's called a search term or a key phrase into Google, let's use an example of social media, right? That's a very big phrase. So if I typed in social media into a Google search engine, what's going to turn up in the organic search results? An organic search result is a search result that's naturally occurring there because of a variety of factors. The results are going to be whatever pages were highly optimized for social media. So since many people in this call are small and medium-sized business owners, I'll bring it down a notch. Let's say that you are a flower store in Detroit and you want to be the #1 search result for Flower Store Detroit. There are many factors that you're going to need to include for your website to be the #1 search result for Flower Store Detroit. It includes what we call popularity, authority, and relevance. Popularity means that a lot of websites are linking to your website, your flower website. Authority means that very influential websites are linking to your website. So influential sites like Crain's Detroit is linking to your website, or the University of Michigan is linking to your website. And then relevancy means on your website, there are lots of search terms that match for what people are searching for. So your website has the phrase Detroit florist over and over and over again. The combination of these three factors increase your overall SEO so that when someone searches for Detroit flower shop or Detroit florist, your website will come up as the first search result or one of the first organic search results on Google. SEO and social media work together because, as I said, popularity is one of the key factors in terms of social media, in terms of overall SEO effectiveness. And the more links or the more people linking to your website through social media, the more popular your website will be in the eyes of Google. Very complex question, pretty hard to explain in about 60 to 90 seconds. But if you Google SEO, there are many articles, many websites that can give you more information. So let's move on, if that's okay. Next up, so just a step back on Twitter. A couple of points on Twitter that brands often ask is, how do I use Twitter effectively? I like to say that you should be consistently unpredictable. What that means is you need to consistently post to Twitter. You can't just post once or twice and then drop off and expect to have people following you. To be effective on Twitter, typically you need to update, once or twice a day, preferably more. You need to be able to respond quickly to people who have questions about your business that are tweeting at you. Also need to not oversell people, kind of like a cocktail party. You wouldn't walk into a cocktail party and just start talking to everyone about how great you are and why your business is awesome. Instead, you would join a conversation politely and you'd say, hey, I'm Tracy. Yes, I do this, but tell me more about you. So it's really about being a good community member on Twitter. And in an upcoming webinar, we'll be talking about how to build and engage your online following. And we'll talk a lot more about that then. So on LinkedIn, there's 3 components that are available to a business person. There's a profile, there's a company page, and there's also a group. What we're looking at right now is my profile. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see my photo, and then my summary of myself. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see skills and expertise, which is a new module offered by LinkedIn. and then below that are recommendations for myself. On our last webinar, we're going to focus exclusively on how to use social media for yourself. So we're going to move on to the next slide because we'll be coming back to this in a later webinar, and we'll look at company pages. Many businesses are not aware that for free they can create a company page on LinkedIn. So we're looking at the company page of a social media agency in Chicago called Lightspan Digital. And you'll see on the left-hand side of the screen that they actually have branded it with their own logo. And then below that, shared regular updates, and it actually looks a lot like the updates on a Facebook page. This is actually a new development within LinkedIn. Within the last few months, companies can now share updates like this. On the right-hand side of the screen, we can see that LinkedIn for free provides insights about a company. It's going to show you who's previously worked at a company, as well as who's in their competitive set. And we can understand who's in their competitive set by looking at what other companies LinkedIn users also viewed. So 435 Digital, for example, is a social media agency also based in Chicago. So for a B2B company, LinkedIn is extremely valuable. And if you are a B2B company, I highly recommend that you, at the very least, have a company page and begin to post updates there. If you do nothing else in social media, at least create a company page. To create a company page, all you need to do is in the upper right-hand toolbar under the search function, switch it from people to companies, and then type in the name of your company. If nobody at your company has created a company page, you can go ahead and claim it by using your email address to verify that you work at that company and go ahead and expand your company page. So in the next slide, we're actually going to move on to Pinterest. Sorry, I thought there was one more slide for LinkedIn. One thing I do want to mention about...
Is it smart to join all of the available social media sites on the market?
I'm sorry?
Should you join all of these sites as a business? Should you join Twitter and LinkedIn and Pinterest? Are there advantages or disadvantages to having profiles everywhere, or is it better to...
Yeah, that's a great question. That's what we're going to tackle in the next webinar and putting your strategy together. Typically, my recommendation is to figure out where your audience is. So if your audience is professionals, then business professionals, then absolutely be on LinkedIn. The next question is, how much do you have time for? You know, Twitter is very high maintenance social network. Facebook can be pretty high maintenance as well. If you are pulled thin and it's going to be you who are running your business and also trying to make time for social media, I would start very small. But if you have a team, then what you really want to do is create a strategy that's going to be very consistent and drive traffic and drive revenue to your business. So my answer is, if you could wait until the next webinar, we'll answer that in full.
Okay, and also, will you answer, because a lot of people are asking, why right now do you even need to have a website if you have all of these social profiles? Is that something you'll be able to address in the next webinar?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll address that in the next webinar, but I can answer it right now. The reason that you want to have a website is because people are going to need to go to your website for information. You know, they're going to need to just go, well, what's the address? What's the phone number? And they're going to want to know that it's trusted information. So they're going to need to go to your website for that very basic information. From an SEO or search standpoint, people are going to, what they're going to need to do is all of these social profiles are going to need to link somewhere. They're going to need to link to your website. So you're going to need to have that website to link your social profiles together. Finally, people may not all be on social profiles, or they may be getting tired of social media in general and don't want to deal with social media. So you would hate to lose these people that aren't on social media anymore because you don't have a website. So absolutely, you should start with a website, and then from there, grow your social profiles. And we'll be talking about that in our next seminar/webinar. All right, Pinterest. So Pinterest was the hottest social network of 2012. It's what we call a visual social network. So on the next slide, show you how Pinterest works. There's what's called a Pinterest board and then a pin. So a user on Pinterest, either an individual or a brand, for free can create a Pinterest profile. And then they can create multiple boards around a theme. So we're looking at the Pinterest board of Wilton Cake Decorating. And so Wilton Cake Decorating is a Chicago-based company that sells all sorts of cake decorating and candy making supplies nationwide. They also have schools, they have classes as well, but really their business is to sell the tools to make your own cakes and candies. So Pinterest is a great website for them because it drives a ton of traffic back to their website. If you're in retail or if you're in a very visual focused business, such as, hair design, flower design, anything that's very visual that involves a lot of skill, Pinterest is great for that. So let's take a look at how this works. On the upper left-hand side of the screen is a screenshot of Pinterest actual profile. So we'll see that they have multiple boards, everything from cake ideas to birthday ideas to Easter ideas. So I went ahead and I clicked on cake ideas. So in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you're going to see Wilton's board called Cake Ideas. So I clicked on this and saw lots of photos of cakes that Wilton has uploaded to their board. I clicked on that red one with the flowers to learn more, and that's going to take me to a pin of taken from their website. So the bottom right-hand corner of the screen is actually the pin that appears on their website. So I can click on that photo, and that photo is going to take me to the website where the actual image lives. And that image lives on a web page on Wilton's e-commerce website where I can buy all of the tools that are going to let me actually make the cake myself. So what's happened here is I just landed on Wilton's Pinterest board because I was interested in making a cake. I saw this great cake and I go, wow, that's perfect. I want to make that cake. How do I make that cake? I click on the actual pin and it takes me to their website, which includes a video of how to make a cake as well as every single tool I need to make the cake. This is a great example of using Pinterest to drive e-commerce for your business because now I can buy all of the tools that I didn't even know I needed 5 minutes ago. And so I highly encourage people who are interested in Pinterest to go look up Wilton Cake on Pinterest to see examples of how they've done this. But let's say on the next screen that you don't have time to maintain Pinterest, that it's a lot of time to upload all those photos, but you've got a lot of great photos on your website. Alternatively, you can create a source board on Pinterest. What this is it simply shows all of the different users that have repinned images from your website onto Pinterest. So in the upper left-hand corner, we're looking at the source page for a nonprofit called Be Bright Pink. Be Bright Pink is an organization that raises awareness about breast and ovarian cancer to young women. So the photos are very edgy and very great for Pinterest. On the upper right-hand corner of the screen, we can see an image that a user named Sarah has shared on her own Pinterest profile. So let's say I'm Sarah's friend and I'm just checking out her profile and I go, wow, that's a really cool photo. I wonder where that came from. I want to learn more. I click on the actual pin and it takes me back to where the photo came from, which is Bright Pink's website. Let's say I've never heard about Bright Pink's website, but I'm at high risk for breast cancer. Suddenly, I really want to know more about Bright Pink. And I discovered Bright Pink simply because I was spending time on Pinterest and happened to find it through my friend Sarah. So this is a great way for people.
Pinterest?
Yeah, go for it.
So is Pinterest a good idea for all types of businesses? I mean, if I was a staffing company or a lawyer or something like that, would it be a good idea to have a Pinterest account? And if I did, what are some of the things that I would pin?
Absolutely. So B2B companies are increasingly using Pinterest as well. So a B2B company might use Pinterest for a conference. Let's say that you've got a lot of people coming in town to a conference. You want to share with them travel ideas. You want to share with them, images of who's going to be speaking, of other people. You can create multiple boards to provide a resource for those people coming. Let's say you have a large kind of a legacy company. An example is GE, General Electric. They go all the way back to Thomas Edison in the 1800s. GE's done a phenomenal job of using Pinterest to share all kinds of content from its archives. They have an entire board of old photos from the 1800s of original inventions by Thomas Edison. They have another board that just features quotes of Thomas Edison that are very inspirational or funny. They have another board called Badass Machines, and I believe that's, very big, airplanes and things that are powered by technology created by GE. So great example of a B2B company would be GE for Pinterest. I can't spend any more time on Pinterest at the moment, but we have a webinar coming up about content. And in that webinar, we're going to talk a lot about Pinterest. An important thing to know about Pinterest that some people don't quite understand is that Pinterest does not increase your SEO for your website. You've got a ton of traffic coming through Pinterest, but it doesn't actually increase your SEO for your business. For people who understand how SEO works, there's what's called a no-follow tag being used on Pinterest. So you're not actually borrowing the page rank from Pinterest to drive to your website. It's a little high tech, but I want to make sure to provide that for people wondering about the SEO impact of Pinterest. Instagram. Instagram is another very popular visual social network. It was actually acquired by Facebook famously within the last year for a price tag of $1 billion. But Pinterest is very popular with teenagers and college students, as well as a lot of creative types. The reason why is it's a very mobile, very visual social network. So how Pinterest works is a user, let's go to the next screen, a user on their phone can take a photo and then upload it to their Instagram profile on their phone and use different filters to kind of change the coloring, change the mood of a photo. They can then tag it to the specific location that they're at. So let's say that I took a photo at a cupcake shop. I could then tag that photo at that cupcake shop, post it on Instagram, and also share that photo immediately with my Facebook and my Twitter networks. Suddenly that cupcake shop is using the customer to do the promoting for them. Let's say I'm taking a photo right now of a cupcake, and all my friends go, "That's a really great cupcake. Where did you get that?" They can actually see on the photo that I happen to be at a cupcake shop. So Instagram is great if you have a physical location. It's also great if you have an event or a conference and you want lots of people sharing photos of that conference. We'll talk more about how to create great photos for Instagram in our content session. But again, if you are a very visual organization or you've got a conference, Instagram is a great thing as well. So next slide is one more example of a business that's using Instagram. This is a woman who runs a cocktail company. She provides cocktail staffing in bars on site for conferences. And you can see right here, these are all the different images that she's been sharing on Instagram recently. Lastly, on the next slide, we're going to talk about Google+. So Google+ is really kind of the silent sleeper among social networks. It's very large because it's owned by Google, the world's largest search engine. But it's really not had the bang that Google+, I think, was hoping for. In the upper left-hand corner of the screen, Google+ says it has 500 million users worldwide, but the social media community is very skeptical of that because if you go on Google+, there's not a lot of activity happening as there is on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. But for a business, I highly encourage both B2C and B2B businesses to, at the very least, create a Google+ profile. It's free to do so. It only takes a few minutes. And the reason is it increases your overall SEO very quickly because it's owned by Google. There's also free tools that can help your business. In the bottom left-hand corner is what's called a Google+ Hangout. So let's say what a Hangout is it allows you to have a live video chat with up to, I believe, 10 people that you can stream online and other people can watch. So if you've got thought leaders at your company and you want them to have an interesting conversation for your customers, your clients, a Google Hangout is a free way to do that. On the right-hand side of the screen is a newer feature offered by Google+ called Google+ Communities. And it's very much like a LinkedIn group or a Facebook group. You can have a private Google community or a public Google community and share content and discussions with people within that community. On the next slide, we will see an example of a company, again, Lightspan Digital, that's social media agency in Chicago, which does a great job of having a Google+ page. In the left-hand corner of the screen, you can see what their latest update was. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, we can see their About tab. They've got all their information, including their phone number, what they do, what their email is, and more information about them right there. This is all being captured by Google. Thus, having this information is going to increase their overall SEO. And then on the left-hand side of the screen, photos and videos. You can also use this to repost your content here to increase your overall SEO. So if you've got a lot of photos and videos, why not also put those on your Google+ profile as well? Any questions about Google+? Nope. Okay, then we're going to go to our last slide, which is a preview of the webinar we've got coming up on Wednesday, March 20th. So these are the 9 steps that I recommend a business use in putting their strategy together. So I'll go over them right now very quickly, and then we're going to go over these in full on March 20th. So number 1 is to research your audience. So know who your customers are or your clients are and where they are spending their most time. Also, what kind of information are they looking for? Next up is to evaluate the social networks. So I always recommend before you join as a company to join as a user to understand how a social network works and also what your competition is doing so you can understand what's working and what's not working and where you can be more competitive. The next step is to actually plan your content. So before you join Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, think about what are we going to share? Do we need more photos? Do we need more blog posts to be able to share? Do we need more videos? Then create your guidelines. Your guidelines are kind of a roadmap, a communications guideline really. What will you and will you not do online? You know, will your tone be more conservative? Will it be more playful? If there's a customer service issue that comes up, how are you going to address that? It's really important to have these nailed down before you join social media because social media is a very fast-moving environment and you need to be able to respond accordingly but always stick to your own guidelines. When you're ready, set up your social profiles. It's a good idea to set up one first so that you understand how it works, figure out what works and doesn't work, and then go on from there. If you're a B2B company, probably start with LinkedIn. If you're a B2C company, perhaps start with Instagram because it's very easy to use and you can just take photos and go. Facebook, again, is going to be a little more high maintenance to start, as is Twitter. Get started online and then grow your following. You know, a lot of people ask, what's the fastest way to grow my following? Unfortunately, there are no shortcuts to being effective in social media. You really just need to be consistent about it and provide content that's great and engaging and respond and interact with your followers over time. In the 3rd and 4th webinars, we're going to talk about creating great content as well as interacting with your followers online and off. Measure your impact. What's great about social media is everything you do can be measured. You know, you can figure out how many people did my tweet reach, or how many people liked my photo on Facebook, or how many people reshared my photo. All of that data is going to allow you to figure out, well, what's working, what are people liking, and what are they not liking. There's also a phrase called social media monitoring. Social media monitoring or listening allows you to understand what people are saying about your business online. So that if you hear a lot of people talking about your business on Twitter, for example, you know, you're going to be able to understand, well, is there a problem that we're seeing across the board? Or do we have a reputation issue? Are a lot of people unhappy with our organization? This is actually going to allow you to go back and shape your business as well as your overall social media strategy. Finally, scale your strategy. So as you learn what works and doesn't work, and you are able to show profit or to show growth in your business and invest more into it, you can scale your strategy accordingly. At that point, you might want to hire a social media agency or create more full-time or part-time positions within your business to scale your social media strategy. Again, we will talk about this whole 9-step roadmap March 20th. That webinar will also include 2 case studies. One case study will be of a small B2C business based in Michigan, and one case study will be of a medium-sized B2B business also based in Michigan. For more information about Crain Social and these ideas, I'm doing blog posts several times a week at our website, crainsocial.com. So you can learn more at crainsocial with 2 S's.com. Also, I am available for consulting as well as speaking and training to businesses, including clients of Crain's Detroit. So you can learn more at Crain Social. Finally, we've got our next webinar scheduled for March 20th. Hopefully there won't be any technical difficulties. So I appreciate all of you staying on with us today. And there is the complete list right there, and I'm going to let Pierrette take it from here.
Again, I thank everybody. We will be sending a link to the recorded presentation in your email tomorrow. So you'll be able to view the entire thing from start to finish. Also, if you visit crainsdetroit.com/webinars, you'll be able to register for all of these upcoming events. We did have a lot of great questions today, and we didn't manage to get through all of them, so for that I apologize. The next webinar series, as Tracy mentioned, is Designing a Social Media Strategy for Your Company. It'll be held on March 20th at noon. If you'd like to revisit the presentation, keep an eye out for the email link. And on behalf of Crain's Detroit Business, Crain's Social Media Group, and the Small Business Association of Michigan, I want to thank everybody for attending. Have a great afternoon.